My name's Anissa, and I went from being a psych major working in marketing to being a web developer in 1 year, and I wanted to share with you guys and whoever is watching how I did that and how you can do it in even less time. This video is for anyone who's already started their journey into learning how to program, or for anyone who's just thinking about it and maybe isn't sure yet. It took me a year to make the transition, but my path wasn't very linear. So I'm going to talk about the things that I did right and how you can use those things and not the things that I did wrong to do the same thing but in less time. I would split the time I spent learning into 3 stages, and I'm going to discuss all 3 and the benefits of each in this video. The first is learning the basics, the second is my time at the Recurse Center, and the third is going to a bootcamp. One of the first things I did was just choose a language and get started. And you don't need to spend too much time on this because once you know one language, it's easy to switch to another. And if you could take one thing away from this video, it's that it doesn't matter which language or framework or technology you're learning, it's more about how you learn them. That's where the real value is, because when you start at a new company, chances are you're not going to know all of the technologies that they're using, and it's going to be your job to learn them. So you have to be good at that. And in 5 years or 10 years, the latest technologies are going to be different, and you're going to have to keep up on your own and learn them so that you can keep up with all the new jobs. In the end, I chose Python because, I don't know, I thought it seemed cool, it seemed kind of mathy to me, and I just started learning it on Codecademy. I personally love Codecademy because, number one, it's really fun. And I would say it's kind of like the Duolingo of programming. But if you know anything about Duolingo and learning languages, then you probably know that it's really not enough to get you all the way there. But I think Codecademy is really great for absolute beginners because it really gives you confidence at the beginning and makes it fun, and it makes you want to keep learning. And once you get to a certain point, then you can move on to harder stuff like a Udemy course. I also really like free Bootcamp for beginners, and there's a lot you can learn on there, and the Odin project is another really good website. I think you can take some time at the beginning to kind of browse around and see what option you think is going to work best for you, but you don't need to spend too much time on this, and once you pick one, just stick with it, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. Now, I also did the Harvard CS50 course, which is Introduction to Computer Science, and this course was hard, but it taught me a lot of computer science fundamentals that you're probably not going to see as much on places like Udemy. Probably wouldn't learn them in a bootcamp. And you know what, you can probably go your whole life being a web developer and never learning the concepts taught in this course. But I think it did give me a really good base, and I do attribute a lot of my success in bootcamp to some of the foundations that I learned in this course. So I think it is worth checking it out. If you have the time, maybe check it out, and even if you don't finish it and just do a couple of the lectures or just the ones that you're interested in, that's good too. Like, whatever you can do is good, so just do that. And also remember, you're going to be flooded with websites and courses and projects to do, and remember that the best ones are the ones that you're actually going to do. Don't pick something because you heard it's the best but you're not that interested in it, because it's going to be much harder to stick with it. You're going to be doing this for a long time, so try to pick the things that you like and you know you're going to stick with, and not what's most popular or what's the best or the smartest. Just do what works for you. Okay, phase 2 is the Recurse Center. So the Recurse Center is a 3-month retreat that normally happens in New York, but right now it's online. I did it online, and it's a retreat for programmers who basically want to just program full-time for 3 months and get a lot better at it. There are a lot of programmers who were like me, new programmers who want to learn a lot and eventually apply for a job, and there are also a lot of experienced programmers, like people who worked at Google and Twitter and stuff, who are just there to kind of either work on a specific project or learn a new technology or just kind of chill. I met people from all over the world, and I joined study groups on things like generative art, computer science fundamentals, blockchain. I even joined a study group for standard ML language, which I had never even heard of before Recurse Center. There are so many areas of coding that I had never heard of at all before Recurse Center, so I really learned a lot about the world of programming and kind of fell in love with it even more than I already had before I went. Basically, I spent a lot of time exploring at the Recurse Center, which also means I wasn't very focused on my then goal of learning enough to get a job and get hired. But it was a really great experience and I wouldn't take anything away from it. By the end of it, I had decided that the path I wanted to stick on was web development. I wanted to do data science before, but that'll be for another video. And I was pretty confident in my decision because I had explored so many other options. So I felt ready to keep learning. Now, by that point, the end of Recurse Center, I had spent 6 months self-studying in isolation. It was COVID time and I was getting a little bit tired and I really felt like I needed some more guidance. So I did some research and then I signed up for a bootcamp in my city. Okay, so phase 3, the pretty much last phase in my journey, was bootcamp. Bootcamp was fun. This was really the first time since I had started learning how to program where I really felt like things were coming together. Like, I remember just being completely amazed that that the code I was writing was working and that I was actually doing things, and it was very exciting. Bootcamp was fast-paced and it forced me to pick up things quickly, which is really important. It really doesn't give you time to study things deeply. It's very hands-on. You learn something and then right away you're applying it, which is kind of what I needed at the time. Before bootcamp, I was stuck in tutorial hell, which basically means I was watching a lot of videos about coding and not actually coding. And pretending like I was learning, but really I wasn't. And the bootcamp solves this by, you have assignments that you have to do every day. So every day I was coding more than I had before by far, and I started progressing much more quickly this way. The last part about bootcamp that was really helpful was the teachers. It really speeds up the process when you're stuck on a question and you can just go ask a teacher for help instead of spending hours trying to solve the answer. And sometimes when I couldn't solve the answer, I would get really discouraged and maybe even stop for the day because you feel like there's no end in sight sometimes when you're learning how to program and you just can't solve a problem. I won't go into too many details about the bootcamp specifics, but I have a whole other video on that if you want to check that out. I'll link it below. But basically what the bootcamp did was really accelerate my learning and give me guidance, which is what I needed and probably a lot of people who are learning a completely new field could use. Now, I think I probably could have gotten there without the bootcamp, but it would have taken a lot longer and probably would have been more painful. Okay, so that's my story and that's all good and great, but how can that benefit you? Because that's probably why you're here. So now I'm gonna give you my advice on what I think you should do if you want to take the most useful parts out of my method. So what I would say is, if you're just starting out or you haven't started yet, is don't quit your day job right away. I would spend about 3 months or so on my phase 1, which was learning the basics. This is like with Codecademy, CS50 if you want, a Udemy course, the Odin project, or a combination of 2 things. And I would say work on this part-time, like 8 hours a week for 3 months until you feel comfortable and you're ready to take the next step. Then once you cover the basics for about 3 months, you can move on to step 2. And this is gonna be this is where the fork in the road is. There's either self-study route or the bootcamp route. So the self-study route, if you're gonna go that way, you can sign up for a program like Recurse Center or kind of find a community online of people doing the same thing to keep yourself accountable. That's originally why I went to the Recurse Center, to have a community while I was self-studying. And I think this is the harder option, but if you are someone who's focused, you're disciplined, you're confident that you'll be able to come up with a curriculum and stick to it, then I would say try the Recurse Center route or community route, self-study route, however you want to do it, for about 3 months, maybe a bit more of like full-time, quit your job, like just study. Well, you don't have to quit your job, but you know what I mean, like spending a lot of hours working on it. And then the other option, of course, is not doing that at all and going from the part-time self-studying, learning the basics, into the bootcamp once you've learned enough. Definitely, I wouldn't go into a bootcamp without any self-studying. I think it's best to prepare. So that would be the other option. If you feel like you need a bit more guidance, then go the bootcamp route. Whichever one you do, at the end of the day, you get what you put in. And also remember, most important thing isn't learning the latest technologies or the most popular language, it's learning how to learn. So good luck, and let me know in the comments which path that you think is best for you. Thanks for watching.